Default. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there we go. All right, yeah, we're back. We're back in here. We're back with another episode of uh study sessions. This is our control systems. Let me see if I can make a new notebook file. New. Yeah, you're all good, blind. All right, let's see this study sessions folder. The Microsoft OneNote notebook has been created. Okay, awesome. All right, so let me see. Am I logged in under the right thing? Um, Let me see if I can open this up here. Let's see. How do I open this? Yo, I feel old sometimes. No, that's not what I need. That's not what I need. Um, how do I open this? What the junk? More notebooks. Okay, okay, okay. There we go. There we go. All right, awesome, awesome. All right, welcome to the stream. Thanks for being here. Um, well, yes, and no. Math problems are welcome. Um, but today, what I want to focus on, because you know I'm kind of a nerd. If y'all haven't been able to tell, I'm kind of a nerd and I like electronics. We're going to talk about what is power. So what is power? All right, if it synchronizes, then we're good to go. Is this going to synchronize? See, that's what I. Oh, okay. So we're just. Oh, there we go. Okay, awesome, awesome. I thought I wasn't going to synchronize for a second. So what is power? Uh, okay, yeah, yeah. So a lot of people may know on the channel that I actually went to school for electronic systems engineering or electronics engineering, electrical engineering, basically electricity, electrical and electricity. And so one of the biggest things that I learned is that power is not the same as voltage. Now you might be thinking like, well, what do you mean power is not the same as voltage? Power is so to define power in my own words, we'll look it up also to make sure I give you guys the proper definition because I would hate to give you guys information that is not completely correct. Um, but from how I understand what power is in the limited amount of experience that I have, power is how much energy, dog. If you don't freaking update, like goodness gracious, update the freaking thing. Am I gonna have to like snap and drag and everything? Like go to go to this like home skillet. I need you to write and update because I hope this will go. There we go. Okay. Y'all see it now. Y'all see it now. Okay. All right. It might take a second for it to update, so I will talk slowly and make sure I write as much stuff down as I possibly can. So in my definition of power, how much energy is um you have a what site am I using? I have you have a project. I'm using OneNote. Um, I don't know why your Google Docs isn't working. But yeah, how much energy is generated or needed to perform a task? So, what do I mean by how much energy is this is gonna bother me so much. This is really gonna bother me. I'm about to close OneNote. Hold on a second. And pop this back open. Okay. So, how much energy is generated or needed to perform a task? Well, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, the definition of power and electricity, like from the electrical standpoint, is P equals V times I, or I squared R. There's one more. There's one more that you could do. Um, I'm trying to think of the other one, but honestly, these are really the only two that you will actually need to really remember. And the reason that these two equations work is because if we go back to Ohm's law, so we'll go back to Ohm's law. So Ohm's law, V equals I R. Well, OneNote gonna learn today. OneNote is gonna learn today. It's gonna update. It's gonna update. It will update. I'm gonna force it to update. Um, so V equals IR in terms of Ohm's law. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of this before, and if you haven't heard of this before, oh boy, you're in for a treat. Uh, you have a voltage. So, Ohm, Professor Ohm, Dr. Ohm, whatever you want to call him, I forgot his first name, but Homeboy Ohm found out that when you have a voltage, or so voltage, which is a difference in potential energy, you can equate that to a current. Welcome to the train. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you tuning in. I wonder if I can plug my iPad directly into my computer and screen mirror that. I don't know. We're gonna try that in another episode of study sessions. We'll figure out what that at all is. Um, I'll reset the thing if it doesn't want to catch up in just a minute or so. But I want to make sure that y'all get the get the words before I start trying to get everything written down. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for being here. Current um, is the flow of electrons at a certain rate measured in in amperes. So the flow of electrons at a given rate, or at a steady rate. Now, I will say current can change, um, but generally speaking, current is a constant rate that can be measured and executed as like 5 amps, 200 milliamps, um, 24 microamps, something like that, whatever. However, when you have a current changing, so like you can have an alternating current, but it will still be 2 amps. You can have an alternating current of 2 amps, but it's going to be 2 amps going up, and then 2 amps positive, and then there's going to be 2 amps negative, and then 2 amps positive, and then negative as it flips back and forth. Um, but current flow is just the number of like the how quickly electrons are moving through something. And I'll give you guys a great example of this in just a moment. Um, and then you have resistance, which technically speaking is not actually the proper thing to measure by when it comes to Ohm's law and whatnot. Jeez, brother, like I don't know why this thing doesn't. Are you good? One note. Are you up to par? Like, geez, man, study. There we go. I mean, now y'all can see what I was talking about. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you tuning in. So you have resistance. Resistance is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm gonna write this in green. In opposition to the flow of energy. So how does all this work together in terms of electricity? Now, I know a lot of you have learned, don't mess around in pools and stuff like that when don't mess around in pools and stuff like that when there's about to be a thunderstorm, right? You don't want to get shocked and die, you know. This is electronics dealing with electricity. So this is electrical engineering stuff. So the best way, but I know people have been told all their lives, like, electricity and water don't mix. Well, it actually does mix in the way that electricity behaves. Okay, so let me show off my terrible drawing skills that I definitely do not have. Um, let's say you have a river, right? You have a river, and then we'll put like some. Let me get a gray. Give me a gray. Let's get like some rocks in the river, and then we got like our water flow. So our water's flowing, but it has to go around the rocks. It has to go around the rocks. Let me get y'all this view right here. Okay, hasn't caught up yet. All right, there we go. Okay, so as you can see right here, we have like a river, and it's flowing. The water's flowing around the rocks. So each rock is like a resistor because it's opposing the flow of the water. It's not letting the water flow smoothly as it would on. Let me point this out. So here, there's no rock, so you see how the water is just flowing smoothly. But when you get to here and here, these are points where the water has to um, maneuver around the rocks and causes a resistance. Um, but also, if you look at it from this perspective, without any type of resistance or without so that's your your current and your resistance. Your current and your resistance. That's what's happening when you have a river and water's flowing and there's rocks in the path, which creates a difference in energy, which gives you a voltage. So when you get down to the big waterfall, I know y'all have seen like I know you've seen different kinds of waterfalls. Like you've seen the small ones that they you go over it, just little, but then you see like the big ones like Niagara Falls, and you see like that massive drop. Well, all this energy up here. So let's say that this is like, and also if you didn't know, most time, well, every single time, all the time, rivers flow downhill. Rivers never really flow uphill; they always flow downhill. So let's say there's like a gradual like 0.2 degree angle drop until you get to here, and then you have a massive like 40-foot drop. So as you see here, the waterfall, and okay, okay, gang. All right, no, y'all really trying to get on my nerves today. No, it's fine, it's fine. This thing really getting on my nerves. Just okay. So as I was saying, you can see here you have about a 0.2 degree angle slope for this river. It's going downhill until it gets to this point right here where there's a massive 40-foot drop. Now this massive 40-foot drop, we'll call that to be 40 volts, just as a just to keep numbers easy. Um, so you have a current, which is the river flowing. You have something resisting it, and it's all building up to this 40-foot drop, and that's a voltage. Now, when it gets to this 40-foot drop, as you see, there's nothing in the way. There's nothing in the way of this other than just gravity and whatever the waterfall is falling to. This is the point where you have no resistance, where you might call that a short circuit. That's why short circuits are so dangerous. You're pulling a large you're pulling a large source of energy straight to ground. You're pulling a large amount of energy straight to ground, and that can cause a lot of heat, or it can cause something to explode. Depends on what you're working with, but most of the time it reacts in the form of heat. So with you having this massive drop, this massive voltage drop with nothing resisting it, and it's just a dumping of current, you're just dumping current, that creates a large amount of power. So that voltage drop creates a large amount of power. And that's because there's nothing resisting the flow of energy as it drops. So that's kind of why that's why it's so super important to get your measurements right when it comes down to making electrical circuits, because you want to have resistance so everything is controlled and calm and smooth. This is controlled and calm. You're riding on a river. It's controlled. There's nothing that can, like, you're on a river. There's a few rocks, you got to avoid them or you got to navigate through them, but it's moving nice and slow. You're not in danger. You get in danger when you get to this huge drop right here, because there's nothing protecting you. There's just a huge amount of energy built up that just drops immediately. So that's where that's kind of how I can explain voltage, current, and resistance. Now, the reason they relate to each other is because Um, I don't know exactly I don't remember exactly how it was described to me, but I'm gonna try my best to describe it in a way that makes sense to you guys. So like I hope this waterfall example, does the waterfall example make sense? I'm gonna just ask that in the chat. Hopefully the water example makes sense. Um, so the way it relates, the way the voltage, current, and resistance relate to each other in actuality is that if I have some type of resistance, so like let's say, all right, great. So a point two, so, okay, great. This where it's like starting to kick in my brain. As you see, we have this point two degree angle drop. Well, point 0.2 degrees, we'll say that's like 2 volts, and we're going down the river with some resistance here. Well, that's gonna the angle of the angle of the slope, like the angle of how the water's going down, that tells me the voltage, and however many rocks I have in the water is how much resistance I have. That will dictate what the flow is like on the river itself. So if you ever been to the Rappahannock River, you'll be able to drive past the Rappahannock. There's parts where there's rapids and it's like crashing over rocks and stuff like that. It's high water flow, high current, it's high velocity water. But there's other parts of the Rappahannock River. I'm from Virginia, if y'all can't tell. Um, there's other parts of the Rappahannock River where the water flow is very stable and still. It's very slow. It's not extremely aggressive and doesn't have a lot of current flow to it, but it's still moving. That's because of the difference in potential energy and how much resistance is there. The parts where there's not much current flow is it's very low resistance. Like there's almost no current flow because when you have because the equation is well actually no, hold up, reverse that. The equation V equals IR, when you rewrite it, is V over I. No, my bad. Well, yes, true, but V over R equals I. If I have a lot of resistance, I'm going to. Oh, that's not gonna wait. Yes, that will show up when I redo the thing. Um, let me just and back at it like. Hold up and back at it like I'm. Oh, okay, no, it's not gonna pop up yet. Um, when you have a huge resistance, you minimize the current to very little stuff. So let's say I have 2 volts divided by 100,000 ohms. I'm going to get like what is it? 1,000 would be milli, so it would be maybe 50 micro. I think it might be 50 micro point 0.005. Yeah, so that would be 0.005 milliamps. Okay, that should be enough weighting. We should be able to. There we go. So that's when you have that high level of when you have that high of a current or that high of resistance. Doesn't matter what the voltage is. You're going to have a low amount of current coming out of it, and then vice versa. So if I had if I go back and reverse this, and let's say that I measure how fast the water's flowing at the river, and I know how much distance has dropped between the two spots. So let's say that this started at as an example, let's say from here to here. Let me do this in a different color. Let's do this in purple. Let's say from here to here is a drop, a voltage drop. We'll call this a quote voltage drop, which is just a drop in the elevation. Um, we'll say that this is a 5 volt, 5 foot difference or a 5 volt drop. So 5 foot difference, 5 foot drop, 5 volts. And let's say that the water is moving at, let's say the water is moving at 5 meters per second. Let's say the water is moving at 5 meters per second. So the water flow divided by 5 meters per second. And let's say that since we're watching it as from the perspective of a car, that we're looking at kilometers as a full unit, and meters is like a thousandth of a unit. I hope that makes sense, even though the numbers look just trust the number. Just trust the number process, all right? Just trust the numbers, all right? Just trust the numbers, okay? All right, so with the numbers given, we have 5 volts divided by 5, basically, milliamps. So 5 meter per second, we're going to say 5 meter per second equals 5 milliamps. So I'm just going to put this, as like a thing right here. Now, this is not a direct 1-to-1 ratio. I don't actually know what the conversion of meters per second to milliamps actually is. This is just for purpose of describing what's going on in the system. So if I'm dividing 5 by a smaller number, I should be able to see how much the rocks resist. So in this equation, I'm pretty much asking how much. Oh, cheese and crackers, man, this is too thick. How much resistance do the rocks generate? So with that question, just pull out our handy dandy calculator. So 5 divided by 0.005. We have the rocks sitting in generating 1,000 ohms of resistance in terms of what the rocks are. So the rocks, 1 kiloohm of resistance. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody understanding that? I hope everybody understands that. I hope it's making sense. Um, just gonna go ahead and close that, open it back up. Um, still taking a second. No, it's cool. It's cool. Just gonna. All right, and then does this update? Um, Okay, so as you guys can see, um, you see that equals 1 kilo ohm. That's how much resistance the rocks in between this area here and this. Let me full screen it. That's how much resistance is between this area where there's no rocks and this area where it's about to go over the waterfall. That's how much resistance has been generated with these rocks here. These three rocks, these gray blob things that I drew. So yeah. So going back to that, well, how does that relate to power? Well, how much energy, when it comes down to power, since power is VI or I squared R, and the way that breaks down is because when you read Ohm's law and understand it and really get down into the nitty gritty of what Ohm's law really is, you basically have a triangle. It's like rock paper scissors. You got V at the top, you got an I, and you got an R. Whatever's next to each other gets multiplied. Whatever's on top is being divided by what's underneath. So let's see. File, view sync status. We're just gonna like manually sync this. Sync up. I'm gonna drag this off to this side so I can actively sync this every time I need to sync it up. Okay. Now I want you to sync. Please sync. Please sync. Please sync. There we go. So you have this triangle, which is voltage equals voltage over current times resistance. So knowing this, if our power equation P is voltage times current, I always wanted to make like a giant triangle out of all these equations, like what relates to what and stuff like that. It would be, to me, it would be a lot of fun to make a giant triangle out of this. I don't think anybody would ever use it, quite frankly. But knowing this, if you break down voltage into its components and you have I squared, like let's say you have a, so why does VI equal to I squared R? Well, if you break down voltage into current over resistance, and then you break down current into uh, that's multiplied by V over R, which breaks down even further into um, I. So let me to break these into their component parts. V equals I times R. And then current is I. So then that means you have I times I times R, and then anything multiplied by itself becomes a square. So I squared times R. That's how V and I are related to be I squared R. I almost lost myself there for a second because I'm algebra I'm algebraically challenged. I'm algebraically challenged. I am bad at algebra. Still pass college though. Yeah. Self 5. I should really work on my algebra skills. But that's beside the point. The point being, you have power as VI or I squared R. Now, the important thing to note about power is, see, the whole thing about what is power and where we started with all this and why I went through all that, what seems like annoying garbage to get to this point. You see, um, A lot of people tend to confuse power for voltage. Voltage and power are not the same thing. You can use power, you can use voltage as a component of power, but when you're talking about something being powered or not, it doesn't matter if it's voltage, it matters how much current it's actually getting. Because at the end of the day, what you're really measuring when it comes down to what how much power something is, you're looking at the amount of current flow that it needs. Um, you're looking at the amount of current flow that something needs, which is so conveniently located right here. How much energy or current flow? I could put that in parentheses with this gray pen. Is generated or needed to perform a task. Huh. Well, that's strange. Let me go ahead and sync this up so y'all can I can actually ponder and not have y'all looking at me like I'm goofy. Sync, sync, sync. There we go. So, as a prime example, you might have you might have a double A battery. You're you're reading at about 1.5 volts on that battery. All right. Actually, I think double A's are 3 volts. Let's say double A's are 3 volts. We're reading 3 volts on a double A battery. All right. Okay. Now they're 1.5 volts. You're reading 1.5 volts on a double A battery. All right. So with that 1.5 volts, does that mean that you can't power your phone with 1.5 volts? Well, your phone has a bunch of 3.3 volt um, pins and 1.8 volt pins and blah 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 and all this microelectronic stuff that I'm not going to dive into today. We're going to get into that another day. Um, but you have with basically 3 AA batteries, you could run your phone. But how? You got this giant. You like I mean like people don't realize the battery in your phone is only about 3.7 to 4.2 volts. That's not a huge amount of voltage. That's not a crazy amount of voltage to think about. But what gets you is the current flow and how it delivers power to each of the components that it needs to deliver. So that 3.3 or 3.7 volt battery that's in your cell phone, well, it might be delivering 2 watts to one thing. It might be delivering a half of a watt to another thing. It might be delivering 25 milliwatts to your screen. It might be, or it might probably be delivering about like half a watt to your screen. It might be delivering 25 milliwatts to the speaker. Well, actually, no, that probably wouldn't happen. It probably be delivering like literally a tenth of a watt maybe to your speakers. Um, your buttons are all like usually pull up resistors where you push it down and it causes the resistance to actually short, so you have a current flow shoot through there because it's going around taking the path of least resistance, and then it pops back up and now you have a resistance after you press the button, which allows the device to know that you are now trying to stop sending current through that position to um, control something that's powered. It gets complicated very fast. I'm going to try and slow down so I don't overwhelm you guys. But power is generally how much current flow you need to perform a task. And that's why, in most cases, you will probably be using I squared R. And power is measured in watts. So power, I should note that power is measured in watts. Like if y'all ever saw the movie The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, where like the professor, the teacher guy, the Mr. Electric guy, he's like, "Watts up?" When the dude is like stuck in the electric eel pit, and like Shark Boy's like, "What? What do you mean what?" Watt is a. Did he even say it right? I don't think they studied. I don't think they studied. Hold up, we gotta watch that clip. We gotta watch the clip. Hold up a second. I gotta. I got. I don't think they. I don't think they clipped. I don't think they said the thing right. They didn't say. I don't think they said it right. What's up, scene?
What?
Okay, let me. Can you open in YouTube, please? Hold on. Let me drag this over here, and then make sure y'all can hear this. And I'm also gonna drop the sound a little bit.
What? Electric eel.
Wait, no. That's not the. No, like Shark Boy stuck with electric eels. I can't spell, apparently. Um. Okay, here we go. I think this is. Wait, no, that's not the scene. Hold it. There. Where is it? Gosh dang it! I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find it. Mr. Electric. Mr. Electric. Electric eels. See now I'm on like this tangent. Finding back electric cables. No, that's not it. Okay, we're just gonna
There's
like find this real
DIY,
quick.
and there's
We're gonna
doing
find it
it
with this like it's only Mr.
yourself.
Electric video. Man, look at that! Look at that editing.
Food will be the. That's your job.
All dreamers. What? Electric eel.
Does he not say like as opposed like as a measurement of electrical frequency or whatever? I almost certain he said something about like
You know, watts.
yeah,
The
here it is.
60-watt bulb?
Watts.
How soon?
Okay,
Not
here
soon
this
enough.
Then destroy him.
dude. This movie came out when I was like this movie came out when I was like 4 years old. It was my favorite movie for so long. If you ask my mom, if my mom ever hops in one of these videos or something like that, she will tell you for sure. I watched this movie like 1,000 times.
Hey.
What? Oh.
You know, watts.
The 60-watt bulb?
Watts. Electric eels.
Okay. Anyway, I thought he said something about electrical frequency or something like that. Maybe that was a different scene. I was see. I got messed up because I was thinking that the dude was saying the wrong thing when he wasn't saying the wrong thing, and you know what? It's actually fine. Anyway, the whole point of what I was trying to say is that watts is a measurement of power. Like he said, the 60-watt bulb, 60 watts.
Yes,
Mom.
he watched that movie so much I got sick of it.
Shout out to Mom, for letting me watch that movie. She didn't let me watch much. She let me watch that movie 1,000 times, but didn't let me watch Power Rangers. Oh no, I won't tell them about the workbooks all summer long and everything like that. No, they didn't change it. They didn't change it. It was probably just a different scene. Because Mr. Electric, he made a ton of jokes about electricity all the time. At the time, I wasn't interested in electricity like that, but he was like, as a measure of electrical frequency, But anyway, that's not here nor there. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make is power is measured in watts. Let me write that in a little bit more legibly. Watts. So power is measured in watts. And as opposed to voltage is the only one that makes sense. Voltage is measured in, I'm going to have like a whole entire rants stream one day where I rant about why electricity is stupid, even though we need it. Well, we don't need it, but like it's very, very useful. Voltage is measured in volts. When I tell you, oh my goodness, this is not like y'all. This is where you can really tell I'm passionate about electricity. Because why is voltage the only one that actually makes sense? This is a little side note. Why is voltage the only one that makes sense? I'm gonna scroll down real quick because I need y'all to really feel my pain. I need you to feel it for this. Okay. So just to give y'all a glimpse into what I had to go through when I was in school, when I was learning about this stuff, voltage. Let me write this legibly because I'm frustrated and I'm gonna like start scribbling. Voltage is in volts. Current. Oh, and it's represented by the letter V. Current is in amps and is represented by the letter I. Resistance is represented is measured in ohms and represented by R. Power algebra does suck quite a bit. Power is represented by watt, or is measured in watts, and technically depending on where depending on where you're writing it, or depending on where it's like being used, you might see it as a W, or you might see it as P. But they're both the same. So you might see it represented as P or W. Then you have capacitance. That's represented in that's measured in farads and is measured it's represented by C, I think. Then you have inductance, which is measured in henries. Henries. Who came up with this stuff? Henries. It is measured with, it is represented by the symbol L. Like what? It's like someone had an aneurysm or something like that and decided to just randomize the letters. Like let's spin the Wheel of Fortune. They're like, pick a letter. V. There is one V. Ding, ding. And then it's like, I'd like to solve voltage, current, resistance, watts, volt, power, capacitance, and inductance. And then it's like, the thing. But do you see how confusing this stuff can get? You're trying to do all these equations and stuff, and you have V, I, R, W, P, C, L, and then whatever else they wanted to throw at you, because you might have frequency with F, and then you might have like alternating current, which is AC, but then you have like a negative voltage. You can have negative voltages, and then you have like You have impedance, which is actually technically resistance, but it's with a phase shift. So you have a phase shift, and then you have imaginary values that go in the imaginary plane, but it's not actually the imaginary plane because the imaginary plane implies that it's fake and it doesn't exist, but it's actually like a plane where everything does kind of exist, but we can't express it in the way that we understand math now. Anyway, back to power. Voltage is measured in volts. Power is measured in watts. People who came up with electricity and electrical engineering stuff are insane. See, if I ever came up with this stuff, I would have made it make sense. Inductance I, current C, capacitance. I don't know. We didn't get that far, but capacitance. I don't know. It would have been like F for farads or whatever. But then frequency. You see how hard it is to come up with letters that you can use multiple times. Anyway, that's beside the point. I just know one thing for sure. I wouldn't have called inductance Henrys. I would not have measured inductance in Henrys. Y'all got me messed up for that one. Anyway, what was I saying about power? Power is measured in watts and voltage is measured in volts. And so I would hate to be that person to see everything in math and equations. I see stuff like pop out at me, and it when it clicks, a lot of times when it clicks, I have like that like that's when you know it really clicks in my head. Then I'll have like oh my goodness. My friend Bree has seen that look too many times. But yeah, so the point that I'm trying to make is that power is how much energy you need to complete a task, or that is generated by like a current flow. So let's say that it's like what you need to do work. So that's a great way to think about it. Thanks, brain. You're working today. So if you know what work is in terms of physics, it's using energy to move. It's using energy to displace something a certain distance. I'm trying to keep this as very, very general. Hey Google, define work, physics.
According to Wikipedia, in science, work is the energy transferred toward from an object via the application of force along a displacement.
What did I just say? Using energy to displace an object. Don't be afraid to Google stuff. And don't let anyone ever tell you that just because you Google it doesn't mean you're not smart. Can't remember all this stuff. Man, can't you think you can remember all this stuff? Man, I barely remember half this stuff. I just sound smart. So, work in physics, using energy to displace an object. That's all it is. So when you have energy, when you're displacing something, let me get my brain together. Let my brain think. Let my brain cook. So you can think of work, since you're using energy to displace an object, watts. We're going to do this in green. Watts is the energy to displace the object. The big breakdown where people get confused why they get confused with watts versus voltage is because a lot of times as a kid you'll have like a Power Rangers toy or like a Batman racing mobile or something like that. You'll have like some type of cool toy I ain't gonna lie, I had some of them cool toys too, man. You know, I had some RC cars, you know, and you got the little remote, and and you like move with it. Anyway, that's beside the point. Um, I also had like some of those. I had some Star Wars blaster with a pew 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 pew, and then like the battery would die, and so like the light would go kind of low, and then I would like check the battery volt. I check the battery voltage, and the voltage would be like 1.3 instead of like 1.7 or 1.8 or whatever it's supposed to be. And I'd be like, oh, the batteries are dead. No wonder it's not gonna. The battery still has that much voltage on there. It just can't drive the current to create the power. The light is requiring a certain amount of power to power itself. Yeah, I know redundancy is redundant, but the light requires a certain amount of energy or power to activate. And when the voltage is too low to drive the current to create the amount of power needed, that's when you have a dead battery. As opposed to, I mean, like you could really run a lot of stuff off of like less than a volt. That blew my mind. My professor talking about like how he made pacemakers that were like literally like 2 volts, and they would charge. They would were they like 2 volts? I forgot. They were on like some real low voltage and low power, and those things would run for 10 years. This watch that I'm wearing, this watch right here. Shout out to mom, she got me this watch. This watch that I'm wearing, this watch will probably die after I'm dead. That's how long this watch battery will last, but because it doesn't require a lot of power. As opposed to my Pixel watch, which I use when I work out and stuff like that. Shout out to my grandparents. They got me that one. That Pixel watch, it will die in a day, maybe 2 days. It'll take 2 days for that to die because it uses so much more power. That light on the screen, and then how I can swipe it, and it's trying to read capacitive touch. And then it also can create sound. It can be a speaker. It can be Bluetooth. It can be Wi-Fi. All those different modules are drawing power or drawing current from its battery, which are causing, like, the battery voltage is not going to change. The battery voltage is going to change eventually, but it's not going to have as much as it needs when it's, driving all those power functions. When it's draining the battery because it's requesting power from all these different ports, and it's separating that out, that's what's causing the voltage drop, and that's what's causing the battery to die. So, long story short, because I mean, all I really did today was ask what is power, right? I didn't really go too deep into it. What is power? Power is the energy required to displace an object, and that's why if you're the next time that your batteries die or something like that, or like your lights flickering, or like your stove isn't working properly or something like that, it's probably not the voltage. You can check the voltage, which will tell you if it has enough energy, enough potential energy, because remember, voltage is just a potential difference. A difference in potential energy. Voltage is a difference in potential energy. So when you check your voltage, if your voltage seems fine, your voltage seems right, like, you're supposed to have 20 volts and you have 20 volts, or you're supposed to have like a 9-volt battery that's reading 8.8. I know it doesn't say 9, but 8.8 is pretty close to 9. Also, electricity is very, very like, close enough. Electricity is like the one engineering discipline where close enough is good enough for you. Biomedical, close enough. You just killed somebody. Civil engineering, close enough. You just killed 25 people because they fell off a bridge. Ocean engineering, close enough. You just flooded a town. But electrical engineering, close enough. You just short circuit. You just blew up a capacitor. No one died. Or the resistor was like, close enough. The resistor burned up. All right. Oh. That's why I chose electrical engineering. Because if I mess up, no one has to die. As opposed to being under the intense and horrifying pressure of being like a civil engineer and my number being negative on a bridge, and it's supposed to be positive, could be catastrophic and end the lives of so many people because I forgot to double check. So, moral of the story is if you want to have a clean conscience, be a teacher. Because at least then if you ruin their lives, it's mostly their fault because they didn't want to listen. That's a joke, by the way. The real moral of the story is that voltage and watts are not the same, or voltage and power are not the same. And if you have the correct amount of voltage that you're supposed to be reading, the chances are there's something wrong in the circuitry that you're measuring against that is producing either a drop in the current delivered to the system that you need, or it wasn't getting enough current to it initially to cause enough power. That's also why that's also why if you go to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something like that, and you buy like a if you ever next time you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any other tool store or whatever, go look at the drills. Ask your parents or go look at the drills for just a moment, or the power tools for just a moment, and you'll see something that says like 2 AH. That's amp hours. That's how long the thing can last while being driven at 2 amps. Now, my company, shout out to my company. I'm not going to say names because I'm not trying to get too technical on it, but they measure their product battery life in watt hours. That tells you how much power you're using, like how long your device can be used at a certain wattage, which would basically be at full power. But next time you go there, when you look at the battery, you'll see something that might say like 2 amp hours or 2 AH. That's relating to how much power the device has, or that's relating to like how much power, how long the device can run, or how long the battery will last. The battery will last at that current at that current draw. But it has nothing to do with voltage. Has absolutely nothing to do with voltage because you could have a 2 amp hour battery, a 4 amp hour battery, and a 6 amp hour battery, all reading 18 volts. So you're not getting more voltage. All that's really happening is you're just getting a longer battery life. But I hope I answered the question today of what is power. I'm just gonna ask the question in the chat. Do you understand what power is? And what the difference is? Difference between voltage and power are. So I'm gonna ask a question in the chat. Make sure that you guys actually understand and that I explained things well enough. Let me go ahead and synchronize this again. Oh my gosh. I think I explained it pretty well. Um, I know the Super Bowl is about to start up any minute now, so I want to make sure that I explained it well enough, but also to get y'all off to the game. You know what I mean? Get back to the games. Any last questions before I end stream? Any last questions? But y'all might not realize this, but I really do love I really do love electricity. All right, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that lack of response as a you guys do understand. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take that as like you guys understand what we're going, what when happened. Um, if you have any more questions, join the Discord. I would love to talk about electricity in the Discord. Uh, Electricity is one of my favorite things to talk about. I love talking about electricity more than I love talking about football, and that'll tell you a lot about me. Because I love. Oh yeah, you can also rewatch the stream. You know, get them watch time hours up. And if you're in school, show this to your teacher, because you know they probably don't expect you to know anything about electrical engineering in the first place, and you know, just be like, hey, I don't know, Miss Akins. That's a real teacher I had. Shout out to you, Miss Akins. She was great. Be like, hey, Miss Akins, you know, did you know that power is actually measured in watts and not in voltage? And watch them be like, wow, I didn't know you knew that stuff. That's crazy. And you know, but anyway, I'm gonna get out y'all's here. Super Bowl's coming up. Hopefully one of the teams wins. Yep, that's about where I am with that thing now. But with that being said, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video in the stream. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just like, you know, nerd out about my favorite subject. I love electricity. Like I love it so much. Look at this. Like this is an entire lecture. Look at this. This is a lecture, man. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video in the stream. If you liked it, strike that like button like lightning. Get it? Like, you know, like okay. Strike that like button like a ninja really would. Subscribe today to join the Shinobi. And I will see all you guys